Florida is a state in the southeastern region of the United States. It is bordered by the Gulf of Mexico to the west, Alabama to the northwest, Georgia to the north, the Atlantic Ocean and the Bahamas to the east, and the Straits of Florida and Cuba to the south. It is the only state that borders both the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. With a population of over 21 million people, it is the third most populous state and ranks 8th in population density as of 2020. It covers an area of 65,758 square miles, 170,310 square kilometers, making it the 22nd largest state. The Miami metropolitan area, which includes the cities of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, is the largest urban area in the state with a population of 6.138 million people. The most populous city in the state is Jacksonville with a population of 949,611 people. Other major population centers in Florida include Tampa Bay, Orlando, and Cape Coral, and the state capital is Tallahassee. Florida was inhabited by various Native American groups for at least 14,000 years. In 1513, the Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon became the first known European to reach the peninsula, naming it La Florida for its lush greenery and the Easter season, Pascua Florida, in Spanish. Florida became the first permanent European settlement in continental America with the establishment of the Spanish colony of St. Augustine in 1565, the oldest continuously inhabited city. Spain and Great Britain repeatedly disputed control of Florida before it was ceded to the United States in 1819. It was admitted as the 27th state on March 3, 1845. Florida was the main theater of the Seminole Wars, 1816 to 1858, the longest and most widespread Indian Wars in the United States. The state seceded from the Union on January 10, 1861, to become one of the original 7 Confederate states, and was later readmitted to the Union after the Civil War on June 25, 1868. Since the mid-20th century, Florida has experienced rapid demographic and economic growth. Its economy, with a gross state product, GSP, of $1.4 trillion, is the 4th largest among all U.S. states and the 16th largest in the world. The major sectors include tourism and hospitality, agriculture, real estate, and transportation. Florida is globally renowned for its beach resorts, amusement parks, warm and sunny climate, and maritime activities. Tourist attractions such as Walt Disney World, Kennedy Space Center, and Miami Beach attract millions of visitors each year. Florida is also a popular destination for retirees, seasonal vacationers, and both domestic and international immigrants, hosting 9 of the fastest-growing communities in America. The state's proximity to the ocean has shaped its culture, identity, and daily life. Its colonial history and successive waves of migration have had an impact from African, European, Native American, Latin American, and Asian influences. Florida has attracted or inspired some of the most prominent American writers, including Ernest Hemingway, Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings, and Tennessee Williams. It continues to attract celebrities and athletes, particularly in golf, tennis, auto racing, and water sports. Florida is considered a crucial state in U.S. presidential elections, especially those held in 2000, 2016, and 2020. It occupies a peninsula between the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean, boasting the longest coastline in contiguous America, stretching approximately 1,350 miles, 2,170 kilometers. This does not include its numerous barrier islands. With 4,510 islands measuring 10 acres, 4.0 hectares, or larger in the area, Florida is the 2nd largest state after Alaska. A significant portion of Florida lies at or near sea level and features sedimentary soil. It is the flattest state in the country, with the lowest high point of any U.S. state at 345 feet, 105 meters, above sea level. Florida's climate varies from subtropical in the north to tropical in the south. It is the only state, along with Hawaii, to have a tropical climate. The tropical climate is found in the southern part of the state, as well as the coral reefs. Florida boasts many unique ecosystems, including Everglades National Park. The largest tropical wilderness in America and one of the largest in the Americas. Unique wildlife includes the American alligator, American crocodile, American flamingo, roseate spoonbill, Florida panther, bottlenose dolphin, and manatee. The Florida Reef is the only living coral barrier reef in continental America and the third largest coral reef system in the world, after the Great Barrier Reef and the Belize Barrier Reef. Florida, known as the Sunshine State, has a history of human habitation dating back at least 14,000 years when indigenous people, commonly known as Paleo-Indians, settled in the region. By the 16th century, when the first documented historical records begin, major groups of people living in Florida included the Apalachee in the Florida Panhandle, the Timucua in north and central Florida, the Ace along the central Atlantic coast, and the Calusa in southwest Florida. Florida was among the first areas in what is now the contiguous United States to be visited and settled by Europeans. The earliest known European explorers came with the Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon. Ponce de Leon made landfall on the peninsula on April 2, 1513. He named it La Florida, in reference to the lush green landscapes and because it was during the Easter season, which the Spanish called Pascua Florida, Festival of Flowers. The following day, he explored the coastline, gathering information and claiming the newfound land. The story of his search for the Fountain of Youth is legendary and only emerged long after his death. 1539, the conquistador Hernando de Soto explored the coast of Florida in search of deep harbors for landing. He described thick stands of red mangrove trees stretching for miles, some reaching heights of 70 feet, 21 meters, with tangled and elevated roots that made landing difficult. The Spanish introduced Christianity, cattle, horses, sheep, the Castilian language, and more to Florida. Spain established various settlements in Florida with varying degrees of success. In 1559, Don Tristan de Luna y Arellano established a settlement in present-day Pensacola, marking the first attempted colonization in Florida, but it mostly failed by 1561. From 1564 to 1565, there was a French settlement at Fort Caroline in present-day Duval County, which was destroyed by the Spanish. In 1565, the settlement of St. Augustine was established under the leadership of Admiral and Governor Pedro Menéndez de Aviles, becoming one of the oldest continuously occupied European settlements in the Americas and the founding of Spanish Florida and the Florida government. Spain maintained its strategic control over the area by converting indigenous tribes to Christianity. The first recorded Christian marriage in continental America took place in 1565 in St. Augustine between Luisa de Abrego, a free black domestic servant from Seville, and Miguel Rodriguez, a white Segovian citizen. Some Spaniards married or formed relationships with women from Pensacola, Creek, or African origins, whether they were slaves or free, and their descendants created a mixed-race community of Creoles and mulattoes. The Spanish encouraged slaves from the 13 colonies to escape to Florida as a refuge and promised them freedom in exchange for conversion to Catholicism. King Charles II of Spain issued a royal proclamation to emancipate all escaped slaves who arrived in Spanish Florida and accepted conversion and baptism. Most went to the area around St. Augustine, but some runaway slaves also arrived in Pensacola. St. Augustine mobilized an entirely black militia unit to defend Spanish Florida from frequent attacks by English colonists and pirates in the 17th and 18th centuries, which destroyed the city and its cathedral several times. Spain built Castillo de San Marcos in 1672 and Fort Matanzas in 1742 to defend the capital of Florida from attacks and to maintain its strategic position in defending the overall command of Spanish Cuba and the West Indies. In 1738, Spanish Governor Manuel de Montiano established the fort of Gracia Real de Santa Teresa de Mos near St. Augustine, a fortified town for escaped slaves to whom Montiano granted citizenship and freedom in exchange for their service in the Florida militia, making it the first legally sanctioned free black settlement in North America. In 1763, Spain exchanged Florida with the Kingdom of Great Britain for control of Havana, Cuba, which the British had captured during the 7 Years' War. The trade was made as part of the Treaty of Paris in 1763, which ended the 7 Years' War. Spain was later given Louisiana by France due to the loss of Florida. A significant portion of Florida's population, including many remaining indigenous people, left for Cuba. The British quickly established the King's Road, connecting St. Augustine to Georgia. The road crossed the St. Johns River at a narrow point called Wacca, or the British name, Cow Ford, reflecting the fact that cattle were brought across the river there. The British divided and merged the Floridas, Las Floridas, into East Florida and West Florida, which the Spanish government retained after the brief British period. The British government offered land grants to officers and soldiers who fought in the French and Indian War to encourage settlement. To encourage settlers to move to Florida, reports of its natural wealth were published in England. A number of English settlers, described as active and of good character, were brought to Florida, most of whom came from South Carolina, Georgia, and England. There was also a group of settlers who came from the colony of Bermuda. This was the first permanent English-speaking population in what is now known as Duval County, Baker County, St. Johns County, and Nassau County. The English built good public roads and introduced the cultivation of sugarcane, indigo, and fruits, as well as timber exportation.